Hi, my name's Cash and you're watching Cashed Out Cars. In today's video I'm going to be doing a review of the Racing Beat 4-to-1 header for a Miata. Now my Miata is a 1993, so it's the 1.6 liter. Power gains are slightly different between the 1.6s and the 1.8s, but they're fairly similar, and the general principle behind the Racing Beat 4-to-1 header is the same for all Miatas. So with that said, let's jump right into this review. To start off this review here, I'm going to go over the specifications of this Racing Beat 4-to-1 header. Now this is, well, a 4-to-1 header, which means that there are 4 primary tubes that come directly off of the engine into one secondary tube, and they all collect at the same place, thus 4-to-1. Racing Beat also used to make a 4-to-2-to-1, which is where 2 tubes came off of the engine into one, and then those 2 collected into a final tube. Now, this header is made up of 304 stainless steel, and the primary tubes are 1.5 inch outer diameter, with the secondary tube a 2-inch outer diameter. The flange that bolts directly to the engine is a cast stainless steel design, and overall this header looks very, very good, but I'll get into looks of this header after. This header comes with the gasket that you need to get a good seal between the header and your engine. It comes pre-welded with an O2 bung already in it. You could cap it if you don't want to use it. And this header is priced at $455 on Racing Beat's website. So now that you know the general specifications of this header, let's get into the reason why you probably want to buy it, and that is performance. So to start out, a 4-to-1 header generally is aimed at top-end performance, and Racing Beat's goal with this header was to improve top-end performance while maintaining decent mid-range performance, and overall just making a good header with top-end gains. Now, Racing Beat claims that this header will give you about 4 horsepower on the top end. You can see the dyno chart on screen now and see where the engine really could make power with this header. And a lot of the gains are in the top end. Now, a lot of the gains on this dyno chart you could see start around 4,000 RPM and continue to redline. The biggest takeaway from this dyno chart here is that the Racing Beat header does show that healthy increase of power over 4,000 RPM, and below that it really isn't that much different than the stock manifold. So that means that you should feel a decent boost in performance in the top end, but shortly I'll get into real world performance and let you know what I felt after I installed this header on my car. Installation of this header was extremely straightforward. I have a complete in-depth tutorial on how to replace a header or exhaust manifold on a Miata on my channel. But really this thing fit with absolutely no problems. It bolted right into place, and the only small issue that I had was the bolts where the header met up with the cat. I had a bit of trouble lining one of them up, but that was already a aftermarket bolt because the exhaust looks like it was worked on and they probably lost the stock one and replaced it with one with a slightly bigger head. So that gave me a little bit of trouble fitting, but I did get it to work. If you have stock hardware, it works absolutely no problems, and you could always just get hardware with a slightly smaller head on it, and then you also will have absolutely no problems. So installation and overall quality of this part was great, and like I said, there were really no major problems with it. One final thing that I want to go over before getting to real world performance is the looks of this header. Now this thing looks absolutely fantastic. That stainless steel gets a really nice color tone after it heats up, and you start to get a little bit of rainbowing, and it really just looks awesome. All the welds on this are really flawless and look great, and overall in my engine bay I really like the look of that header, and personally that's one of the nicest things about it. So now let's get into real world performance. Is one of these headers worth it, and can you even really feel a difference? Now, let me start out by saying that putting a header on a car that's otherwise stock really doesn't make a crazy difference, and putting a header on a car that's already slow like a Miata is not going to make it a rocket ship because it's already slow and there's only so many gains you can make with little things like a header and an intake. Now, with that said, when I put this header on my car, I initially was on the fence about if there was a power boost. In third gear, I did feel that on the top end that the car was quite a bit quicker, but like I said, some of it could have been just in my head, because when you put a performance part on your car, you think you're going to feel it. Now, after driving this thing around for a while, I could say that I am pretty convinced that there is a top-end boost, and between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, you really feel the car come to life. Now, like I said, that does not mean that this car is fast now and that that header made this thing that much quicker. Now, 4 horsepower is what they claim. Based on my butt dyno, I mean, who knows how much power it really is, but it's really not a lot. It just makes the car pull a little bit harder on the top end, and it really looks great. So in terms of real world performance, obviously I didn't dyno this thing, I just went based on driver feel. And in terms of feel, yes, it's a little bit faster on the top end, but it doesn't make a huge difference. So to wrap up this video, would I recommend a Racing Beat header, or really any header on a Miata? And the simple answer is, if you want your engine bay to look absolutely fantastic, I would say yes, this is a great option, because really it does take the engine bay to a whole nother level. In terms of performance, like I said, I am convinced that there was a small amount of performance gain. I didn't dyno my car, but most people aren't going to dyno their car when they just put a header on. They're just going to get the feel of it on the street and potentially on the track and at autocrosses. And this header does make a difference, but it's not a crazy difference. Now, I priced it out, and the cost per horsepower of this header is around $114. You could keep that in mind when you're looking at other modifications that you want to do to your car to get some power, because in my opinion, that's a little bit expensive for the power gains. On these Miatas, you could mess around with the timing and run 93 octane and basically make a noticeable difference in power that's sort of equivalent to this header, though a little bit lower in the power band, for basically free. So you have to weigh your options and decide if this header is something that you're interested in and if it's worth it to you. Now, personally, if you have a Miata, you know that it's not a straight line car, and you probably want to improve it in its cornering and handling abilities. And in terms of track time, cornering and handling will make you a lot faster than adding a little bit of horsepower with something like a header. If you're interested in that, Engineering Explained has a fantastic video explaining where track time comes from and why tires and suspension modifications often will be horsepower mods. Now, with all that said, this Racing Beat header is awesome, and once again, it looks great. So at the end of the day, you have to decide what your goal is with your car, and if the gains that you could get from something like a header is what you want. With all that said, please like this video if you liked it, subscribe for more, and I hope you stick around for the next one. Take care.